Welcome to Morae's podcast series, Speaking of Transformation, where we discuss the leading trends and innovations that are reshaping the way legal work is done. Today's episode features Morae's Varun Srikumar speaking with Raj Korea, who shares about his career choice and experiences as an independent, on-demand lawyer in the sports and media industry.
Raj, very delighted to have you join us today.
Brian, thanks for having me.
So Raj, you started your legal career in the year 2000. You worked for a London-based law firm for a number of years. You then moved to Switzerland, where you had a great stint with an international governing body for football. Since 2010, you've worked across a number of major sporting events, including the Olympics, all household names, essentially Olympics, the Winter Olympics, various sales activities on media rights. And then I think over the last 10 years or so, you kind of moved out of an in-house corporate role and established yourself as an independent legal consultant advisor to a number of organizations, again, specifically in the sports field, in that space. So this has been an amazing career trajectory, and I'm guessing for you, for your career development, for your personal development, and some I think that many out there would dream to own in their own expertise and area of field. Now, how was your career journey here to the switch to being an independent consultant? And what was that journey that you had to go through to get to the current stage you are here right now?
Yeah, thank you, Aaron. Yeah, I mean, that's a good kind of nutshell of my description of my career. The first thing I'll say is that the law firm environment was never quite right for me. So I went in-house quite early on as a 2-year qualified lawyer. And that sent me down a specific career path. And I was in-house for 8 years before I made the switch to becoming a consultant. And I'd say it was partly by design, partly by accident that it happened. You know, I was working at FIFA for 6 years in their commercial legal team, and I was approached by an organization which was relatively new at the time, and it was a law firm, but it was set up specifically for consultants. And they had a sports lawyer on their books, a very senior, very well-respected sports lawyer, who wanted someone more junior, at a more junior level or a medium level, to come in and help him with his kind of sports practice, his portfolio of clients. So very like a standard, it was almost like a law firm setup, but within this kind of consultancy model. And that seemed quite interesting to me. But in the end, I turned them down because I got an opportunity to move to Geneva. I was living in Switzerland already at the time. Moved to Geneva and work on the Olympics, which was having worked on the World Cup for 6 years. I couldn't really turn that down, the opportunity to work in the Olympics. But after a year and a half or so, I realised Geneva wasn't really for me. So I wanted to come back to London. I'd been away from home for quite a while, and I remembered this organisation. Hailbury was called. And so I remained in touch with them, and we had a conversation, and the opportunity was still there. But this time I could bring a client with me. So my employer in Geneva wanted me to continue on that project, were open to me doing it on a consultancy basis, working remotely from London, for which I'm extremely grateful to them, because that really helped me make that step. And so we hashed out an agreement with them about how much I would work, fees and so on. And then I moved across to London at around the time of the 2012 Olympics. And that's when, and really I thought I was coming to join this other sports lawyer and kind of build a practice, which is it's not so far removed from a law firm, but it was a bit more flexible, and I like that kind of flexibility aspect of it. And then 2 weeks after I came to London, he announced that he was leaving and taking his client base with him. Mm-hmm. Which was a little bit of a surprise. And so I thought to myself, well, okay, I'm here. I've got my one client. And that was kind of guaranteed for at least 4 years, certainly for the first 2 years of which I'm taking up pretty much 60% of my time. So I had no concerns about income, and I could cover my expenses. And so I thought, let's give this a go and see what happens. And that was summer 2012. And here I am almost 10 years later, still now having kind of organically grown a client base, moved independent of Hailbury, which was very nice. They kind of were umbrella, and they kind of did my IT infrastructure, and they paid insurance, they did my invoicing, which was great. But actually, I realized that I can do all that by myself. So I ended up becoming fully independent. And it was a very amicable split with them, because in terms of their business model as a TMT kind of organization, I was very much an outlier. So their clients didn't really need me, and my clients didn't really need them. So it's very amicable split when that happened.
I think over the last 10, 12, maybe up to 15 years, there's been a general proliferation of senior lawyers moving into that independent career path, which is more a lifestyle choice as well for some, but increasingly predominant amongst a lot of mid-level lawyers and professionals. From your perspective, it was the opportunity was there because you had that relationship with a particular client to say, hey, this is something I could kind of give it a go and see what happens. Whereas now I think clients themselves are slightly changing their approach to who they need to work with, whether they've got the option to work with their traditional law firms, panel firms, other organizations as well, or they could actually go to independent experts, individuals to kind of help with some of these specific projects moving forward. And I guess one thing I wanted to kind of get your inputs was nature of working independently is, as opposed to being attached to a corporate. What should some of the new individuals making that switch need to kind of keep in mind? Are there any kind of you had in your mind that actually, think about these things that'll kind of help you make that right type of decision as you kind of go through the journey?
Yeah, I think, it'll be interesting. I'd love to speak to myself of 10 years ago and, say, actually think about these things, because it's been quite an interesting journey. I mean, I'd say, clients are definitely far more open to it now, and particularly the pandemic has accelerated that. I think a lot of clients I found put, hiring on freeze and wanted to look at using consultants more, and found that worked very well for them. And I think that will inevitably mean there's going to be more work for consultants. I'd say think about your offering, think about how you're positioning yourself within the market. Because from my experience, I was never going to be kind of a rival to any of the law firms, the London law firms, any of the London sports law practices. Because it's only me. I don't have like a backup of associates and trainees. I don't have various different departments who can offer different advice on different areas of law. So, I recognizing that, for me, I saw that actually clients are going to come to me to fulfill a different need to when they will go to a regular law firm. And really, so I kind of at an early stage, I positioned myself, using my in-house experience, positioned myself as kind of an in-house counsel, but externally based. And so clients, some of my clients didn't have anyone. Perhaps they're an international organization, have a London office that doesn't have a London lawyer internally. So they needed someone on an ad hoc basis, and I could fulfill that role. Other clients, a classic situation of a client who, during the pandemic, the sports competition changes had to be made because, which were enforced by the pandemic. And suddenly they had a lot of contracts which needed amending, and they've got a very capable, very experienced in-house legal team, but they already had a full quota of work, and they didn't really want to hire anyone extra to do those amendments, because it's a one-off project that's going to last a few months. So they got me on board, and that was perfect for them. I was there for a few months. I did that project. In the end, another project came along which I could help them on, and then we parted ways since then. That was I offer something very different to law firms, and I think that's it's important to think about what you offer and what you don't offer as well, and so you can position yourself.
The dynamics of working independently are very different, and the experience that clients receive is very different from working with a independent expert as opposed to going to a law firm. And it's also about building up credibility with clients. What do clients look out for specifically as opposed to going with a law firm? Because they could at some point choose to say, actually, this piece of work, as you just rightly said, could be done from a law firm, but it could also be done from an independent consultant. Are there things that clients look out for specifically in that aspect to kind of make their next decision?
I think so. I mean, I think flexibility is key, and flexibility in how I work, but also flexibility in fees, and how I can charge them. So, my clients, there's no two clients who I charge in the same way. Some want, a retainer, some want a project-based fee, some want a fee per contract, etc. And it's always, there's always a discussion to be had. And for me, being myself, it's far easier. Like, it's very easy to have that conversation because there's no one else I need to explain this to. I can make that decision on the fly, as it were, with clients, and that's particularly important. I think when they're looking at, like, I go back to this example that I gave earlier. My clients are looking for someone who can come in very quickly and not require much hand-holding, someone who can come in and do a job and actually work with their internal commercial people and not necessarily need a lot of supervision from the lawyers. And so some clients are different. Some clients only want me to deal with the in-house legal team, but most of my clients actually want me to deal with their internal commercial people. Like, one client has offices all around the world, and on one project, I was the main one kind of coordinating their commercial people around the world on that project. And they said they want someone who can come in and do that. And again, I fall back on my in-house experience, having done that within an organization. It's helped me to fulfill that role, and clients can see that. And I think they want someone who's cost effective. They want someone who's flexible, and they want to know actually the expertise they're getting. So the one thing, they know that they're getting me, whereas in a law firm they may get a group of people, they may get associates, trainees, etc. When my clients come to me, they just want me, and so they know that's what they're getting.
Clients, when they need a particular piece of work to be done with a certain objective, they get to choose the individual, in this case, who they believe is the most qualified, equipped to kind of help them achieve that objective. And also with a certain knowledge of the organization as that this individual may have, it just makes it a bit of a no-brainer to say, hey, actually, here's somebody that I could actually work very closely with because I've spoken to them. I understand their background and experience, versus working with any other organization where you may just be given somebody without having the first conversation with them. And again, you're right in the sense that building up that credibility and relationship in terms of understanding of the environment the client is in. How do you ensure you keep up with that stands the test of time? They may bring you on board for certain ad hoc projects. You may work on it for, as you said, 6 months projects. You may then not be involved in for another 2 months because it's a bit of a lull time in terms of any particular activity. And then they may bring you back on board again. How do you ensure you keep up that general knowledge and understanding of that organization and that you've not lost anything in that period that you've not been involved?
I think it's it's a good question. It's a matter of building personal relationships and maintaining those relationships, and doing it with integrity. Like, I would not, I don't think I wouldn't say I'm good at networking or marketing. But what I am good at is building strong personal relationships. And so getting in touch with people. A lot of my clients are based abroad, so actually, and a number of them are based in Switzerland. Inevitably the sports industry is pretty big there, and also I was there for a long time. So actually, going out there and just catching up with people and just seeing how they are, seeing what's going on in their organization, meeting new people who might have joined, but doing so in kind of in an organic way that's not, it's not the hard sell. It's a matter of reminding them that I'm there if they need me. And then, when that need comes, they'll say, oh yeah, Raj is here, and we can give him a call. Mm-hmm. Or in the case of new clients, who are contacts of mine, they'll remember that, oh, Raj is doing this. He's doing his consultancy, so maybe we can get him on board. The one word I would say is doing it organically.
And the advantages is you can choose the work that you want to pick up.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's one of the major benefits of going down the consultancy route has been the variety of work that I've done. Because for the first 6 years of my career in sports, I was fully on World Cup and other FIFA competitions. Then I did some, expanded a bit and did like the Olympics and some other things. But now, like, the variety of work I do, and it's from different levels. I still I do some work which is football at the highest level, but I also do recently I've done sailing, I've done gymnastics, I've done swimming, motorsport, and it's all, for me, it's fascinating and has given me a much more rounded approach, and has broadened my knowledge base. And it's also just really interesting to see how different sports approach things and how different players within the industry approach things.
A lot of the lawyers who actually work in this fashion, even the mid-level lawyers, working in a similar fashion gives them the opportunity to kind of try out different industries, try out different kind of organizations before they choose, actually, that's the path that I want to go down because I get the best working environment, I learn a lot more, and actually I've got a personal interest in that particular area of the business. And so it just gives them an additional benefit to run this path for a few months, maybe years, before they make that concentrated move to the next permanent position they have. So some people actually go back working in-house after working in an independent fashion. Just next session, I wanted to cover the remote ways of working. Over the last 2 years, the pandemic has forced us to change the way that we work. We've all been working remotely using video at homes, often having toddlers and significant others as well in calls, which is all normal right now. And we've been able to manage it over the last 2 years. And I think a lot of organizations have actually done well in that environment. Now, coming out of the pandemic, how should working environments or legal service delivery be different? I benefited from working in an office environment very early in my careers. I worked very closely with my peers and my mentors. And I'm guessing you also had the similar development as part of your legal career. Is it necessary in this post-iteration of work environment to think about a 5-day a week from a junior lawyer perspective in terms of their development?
I think, the short answer to your questions, I don't think that's necessary. I think the pandemic has shown us it is possible to work in a different way. It's possible to be effective working from a home environment. Something that I've known since 2012 because I've been doing it for 10 years now. But also now clients are doing it as well. So, with my video calls with clients now are no longer them in their office and me in my home, but it's, they're in them in their home as well. So it's shown that it works. It may, for a junior lawyer, I think, yes, I did benefit from working with my peers, my more senior colleagues, initially in the law firm and then in kind of the in-house environment at FIFA. But back then, working from home wasn't really done. People really didn't think about it. So that was the only option to me. But I think it is possible to have a balance there where you can, you don't have to be in the office 5 days a week. I would also say working from home 5 days a week as a junior might make it harder to develop your career, but I think you can have a mix there. You don't necessarily have to be in the office with those people 5 days a week in order to progress your career and pick up the knowledge and skills that you need. I think what it will need is for you as a junior to take more control of your career and your development and be more responsible for yourself than I was as a law firm trainee, and people in the past have been, because training programs they're kind of set out for you, and you can kind of just go along and do them. Whereas this requires, I think, you to be more proactive about the knowledge that you want and go out and get that knowledge, whether it is connecting with particular individuals or whether it is doing particular courses or particular reading. So I think yes, it requires more responsibility for yourself, but also the benefit of that is you gain more control of your career at an earlier age. So I think I think it could be quite exciting for a junior lawyer in this environment to take advantage of that kind of hybrid working environment of being at home and being in the office, because it requires you to be more proactive and take more control of your career.
It has taught us that we need to kind of adapt and change from what we have as opposed to going back to reverting to the default option. I truly think it's a bit unjustifiable to kind of a blanket approach to say, come back into the office 5 days a week. And you are very right in the sense that junior lawyers coming into the workforce right now are essentially trailblazing what that path needs to be going forward. And their proactiveness, the model that organizations need to bring in for their personal development and training and qualification should all be intertwined in a way that it's more coherent and cohesive for coming out of it to be that well-rounded professional. Raj, it's been brilliant and fantastic to have you speak to us. And I hope we get the chance to have you come back and join us again at a later point.
I'd love to, Varun. Thank you for having me. It's been really good.
Excellent. Thank you.